Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? I am Jayme Bedingfield, and you are listening to my podcast, Too Many Words, a place for the creative and the odd, those that maybe care a little too much. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning your podcast listener of choice my way. I have journalist and brains behind Obsessed Right Now podcast, Heather Mason, on the show. In a bit. I am a big fan of Heather's. She's one of those bright spots on Twitter, which are rare to find these days. All her coverage is fresh and witty. She covers popular television shows like Game of Thrones and cons, conventions galore, and lots of other good stuff. So be sure to check her stuff out on the interwebs. You can follow Heather on Twitter at NerdHeather, and you'll find her words and podcast info from there. And while you're clicking stuff on your phone, you can visit patreon.com/too-many-words and pledge your support to the show and gain a variety of fun goodies and make me happy. So thank you. And so what's new with you guys? We are making our way into November. It's getting quite chilly here in Seattle. We have gotten 2 days of snow already in the beginning of November, and I fear the forthcoming apocalypse. Global warming is not a myth. Speaking of myths, as some of you may already know, myth-inspired stories are both my favorite to read and to write. I just finished this morning, actually last night. I don't know, my days they're bleeding together, fall back and all. But yeah, I finished reading All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. And oh man, it is just a beautiful melody of myths, owls, and madness. It was everything I expect a Stiefvater book to be. All the Crooked Saints takes place in the Colorado desert in the 1960s and follows a family of saints and the people who come to them to perform miracles. The narrative tone of the story gave me the feeling that I was sitting at a campfire listening to a dynamic bard tell me a tall tale of wonder and darkness and love and loyalty. Storylines that are drenched in the loyalty theme are some of my favorites. I consider myself loyal, and especially like when I was young and figuring stuff out, that loyalty wasn't always centered on the right kind of energy. The notes of relationships and the ropes that tie people together in special ways is a complex element to capture, and Maggie knocks it out of this world. I'm a sucker for birds. I'm fascinated with them. I've befriended a pair of crows in my yard. I've done lots of research on them for my own projects. Maggie's use of owls throughout the story was like an eerie, comforting lullaby told with an October chill. So good. And definitely grab a copy if you haven't. All the Crooked Saints has been on the New York Times bestsellers list for the last few weeks. And it released the same day as John Green's first release since The Fault in Our Stars, Turtles All the Way Down. I haven't read that yet. I'm putting it off a little. It's down on my list quite a bit, and maybe over the holidays I will crack it open. His words take a lot of sitting on and savoring and contemplating, and I don't know, at least for me. Plus, the story focuses a lot on anxiety, and it seems, so I have to work up to that. And anxiety sucks. It's just a constant, thing to wrangle. It's like a creature of its own, and sometimes I don't even realize that I'm anxious. I just get swept up in this cloud of panic, and then I have to recenter myself. I wouldn't wish panic attacks on anybody. So if you deal with those too, I guess just do some breathing. Breathing does help, though it sounds silly. I'm working on just dealing with it and knowing it's there, and I definitely feel like I'm the one with the upper hand at the moment, and a grappling match of sorts. And I just pictured myself in fencing gear. But I think if I were to make my anxiety disorder a character for like middle grade fiction, I'd make it like a fox type creature with smooth words and too many ideas. A sinister version of Totoro. That's actually not a bad idea. I'm going to make note of that. Come back to that later. Are any of you who are doing NanoWriMo right now finding that you keep getting like ideas that have nothing to do with the book you were writing? And having a little bit of that. I've been working on short stories solely for a few months now, and now that I'm switching gears to rewrite this damn book, I've been getting short stories ideas right and left in my head, and I jot them down in a few words and go back to the drafting. And Nano is going well. It is doing what I wanted it to do. I am around 11,000 words, which isn't as high as it could be, but I'm really happy with it. I'm in this rewrite, this rewrite that has been hiding under my bed and trying to grab my feet in the night when I get up to get a glass of water or make my dog get off the sofa. Yes, I have some kind of alarm in my head that goes off while I'm sleeping. And I'll be dreaming about tentacles and forests and to-do lists that keep growing. And I'll wake up and be like, Jake's on the sofa. And, sure enough, there he is. 110 pounds of dog cleaning himself. And, he's always so guilty when I catch him. And I feel bad making him get off. But one can only buy so many sofas. I can tell you that if Jake were to be given free reign of sofa use, it would be unusable in a year. And I speak from experience. But yes, I am taking the low stress approach to Nano, which is not at all what I did in the first Nano a couple years ago. And, I really wanted to get back on this project, and I am. And even better, I'm having fun. My overall approach to writing is, like sitting down and getting it down. It's all been in development. And years ago, when I was first starting out, I didn't even pay attention to the overall process. I didn't give it much thought at all. And it was all about bleeding onto the page and proving to myself that I was stubborn enough and focused and obsessed enough, to do what it takes to put that many connecting thoughts together. But, I've been making sure that I'm extra comfy when I sit down and write, treat it like a date, make myself feel special. Mindset is crucial. And, this is one of those places where writing and life blend into the same practices. Perspective is freaking everything. It sounds cliche and false because it's said too often, a fate most wise sayings fall to. But, have fun with what you are writing. Find things to love about it. Your work in progress is your rabbit hole, your wardrobe, your, race car. Part of knowing my writing process was learning and accepting that every day the process would be a little different, because every day is a little different. It doesn't matter how much planning and calendar staring one does. Every day has its own tone and theme. Listening to myself is just, it changes the production, just lean into it. Writing is, it's in ways it's a trusting exercise. Go ahead, fictitious character with anger problems and an inclination to rise the dead. Take us on an adventure. Let's go look for that amulet. And sometimes, giving that level of control over, that scares me. Often, before I sit down to draft, after, maximizing for a burst of words, I get this fluttery feeling in my stomach that I would get like at school dances in middle school. And it's just both awful and wonderful. And I guess I'm lucky that, I have something that makes me feel like that. But if I didn't love this writing thing as much as I do, I would have stopped, a long time ago, because this shit is hard. Every step, creating, editing, drafting, editing, plotting, thinking, researching, more editing, rewriting, revising, more editing, proofing, selling, wishing, waiting, rejection, poisonous tomatoes trying to eat our feet. I know there's, and there's more after that from talking to other writers. I just haven't gotten to that part of it yet, but I'm learning to love every painful moment and see it as the beautiful thing called opportunity and following dreams. And if your mind is feeling a little flat, go to DeviantArt and get lost in art for a while, created by other people following their dreams, and you'll be right as rain. That was the first time I've ever been able to work that saying in to my words. So I'm excited. And I think I've gone off on for a good bit here. So let's go to my talk with Heather Mason and see what she's been up to. Hey, Heather, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I have a pretty severe Butterfinger hangover this morning.
Oh, gosh.
I've been just super healthy, conscious eater since about May. And last night I blackout ate a bag of Butterfingers, and this morning my body's like, yeah, you're moving slow today.
I had some Oreos for breakfast, so we're good.
Butterfingers are my Achilles heel candy.
I'm a big Reese's Pieces, anything really Reese's, like chocolate and peanut butter combo.
So you like peanut butter candy that actually tastes like peanut butter and not taffy paste.
Right, yes. Exactly.
So what's new? What's been going on? It's been, as we were discussing before we started, about a year and a half since I've had you on.
Yeah, it's crazy because it feels like that was just yesterday.
It really does.
But it's amazing, like, how time works, that's all.
It really is, especially when you're actually like looking at it, right? You're like, oh, that was, with my dog, my one dog is 8. And I'm like, what? Where did the last 8 years go?
Yeah, because you've had them the whole time. So you're like, wait, yeah. I don't remember seeing you get bigger.
So you were doing some globetrotting this summer.
I did. I just got back. It's been a couple weeks, I guess, now, but still I'm trying to get back into real life. I was gone for about 6 weeks from LA, but in Europe for a month.
Wow.
Which was really exciting.
Is that the first time that you've been to Europe?
No, I've been a couple times I hadn't been to a lot of the places I went to. But I've been to Europe a few times. Like, I've been to France, and I had been to England, and I think that was it. Like, I guess I don't know what's considered Europe, but I had been to a few of the places before. But this time I went to Germany and Italy, and Sweden, and I had never been to any of those places before, so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I haven't left the US, but I am more and more just thinking of parts of Europe, and I'm just like, I could just be there for a while and hang out in countryside that looks like the Shire.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because the US is so big, and like I would talk about that with people when I was gone, is we have so much like variety just like within our country. And a lot of the European countries are small. They don't have as much variety. Like, some of them do, but a lot of them don't have as much variety as we do. It's like driving across the country takes like 5 hours. And I'm like, oh, it's not that big. And it feels like, oh, I'm going to all these places, but they're really, fairly close together when you look at it compared to here where everything's so big and far apart.
It's an interesting just perspective switch, I'd imagine, being in Europe for a month. You probably got to shake some things loose.
Yeah, I was trying to work while I was there, but the time zones were, I thought it would work out well, but it was really hard to like motivate myself to work at like midnight. But there were definitely things that I appreciated more about home than I expected. Like, I kind of was just like, I just want to get away from the United States. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I kind of miss things here and there, like free water, like all the time, and like places to go to the bathroom without paying, and like random stuff that you just like forget about when you're traveling, or having like I was traveling around so much that I wouldn't really ever unpack, or I wouldn't have And I was like staying in hostels, so I didn't ever have like my own room. So like things like that, you're like, oh, well, these are things that I appreciate that now I'm recognizing more that I I need to, like, I can appreciate more when I get home than like, yes, there's a benefit to being like I'm in Germany, which is really cool, but also I don't have my own room. So it's a little bit like balancing out everything and also like motivating yourself to work and try to make it like I like tried to do a good balance of making it like a vacation, but also not not going like so hard because you have when you're in like a new place, you have this idea that I need to go see everything, and that can be exhausting. So I tried to not have it be where I was just going all the time. Like I would just take days where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just not going to do anything today, or just chill and like read a book in the park or something, um, or just sleep in or whatever, and just look at it as like I'm going to come back to these places later. I'm just kind of like getting a lay of the land, and next trip I can go make sure I see this, this, and this.
Totally. Well, and also having a month, you need to have those down days. Otherwise, you'll just run yourself into the ground.
Yeah, we were like my mom was with me for half the time, and we were doing a lot of like jumping around from place to place, like only staying in places for a couple days, which is also really hard because you spend a lot of time traveling to get from place to place. So just having days where we're like, we're going to sleep in, or we're only going to like go eat lunch and then just kind of wander around today was important to not, yeah, to not like run yourself into the ground and be exhausted by day 10 and be like, I want to go home, but I still have 20 more days.
Yeah, that's like a shorter version of me with camping. I'm there for 3 hours. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, ready to go.
Yeah, well, I had that. I was like, I was like hoping that wouldn't happen. That I wouldn't be like, okay, well, what am I gonna do if 2 weeks in I'm like, I'm done, I'm ready to go home, and like I still have 2 weeks left. But luckily, that never happened, so it was good. I was ready to go. I feel like it was the perfect amount of time. I was like ready to go when it was
Right.
done. And well, I went to New York afterwards, so I didn't even go home. But yeah, which maybe also like not a good idea. Like traveling. I did like a con on each end of the trip, which is maybe terrible because you're like exhausted from like going to a convention. I did Dragon Con at the beginning and I was so tired. But I think my strategy was just like, oh, you're going to be tired anyway, so might as well just have it have it all happen at once.
Dragon Con is, I've never been to that one, but it's one that I would really like to go to someday. It's
Instead of it being like in a convention center, it's all in hotels. So it really, everybody just kind of floats in between their rooms and the hotels, and nothing starts early. And like there's a rave that goes to like 5 a.m. It's pretty crazy. Fun. And like everybody drinks while they're on their panels. And
oh wow. Yeah, that's definitely the vibe that I pick up.
yeah, it's really fun, especially for people who are really big into cosplay. Because I think that's really like, of all the conventions I've been to, that's the one where it's most people are cosplaying, and it's more unusual to not be cosplaying than to actually like then at like San Diego Comic Con, or even when I went to New York Comic Con, there weren't that many people cosplaying. It was a lot less of like a ratio than I expected. So Dragon Con's pretty high on the cosplay. So I think that anybody who is really into cosplay, that's definitely a good part, a good convention for them.
Now, do you have a favorite convention?
That's really hard. I like Dragon Con just I like Dragon Con because of I mean I like go with my sister and like see my family, so that's really fun. And it's like I just know everybody. I know so many people there, and there's definitely a lot of problems with that convention too because they grew really fast. And San Diego Comic Con is probably like it's probably still my favorite, even though it's so big that it's overwhelming, really.
On
Like
that one.
a lot of people just don't have fun there anymore. But it still has like so many big panels and people and announcements, and like everybody you'd want to see still goes there. And I because it's in San Diego and I live in LA, so many people from LA go there. I just see all these people I know all the time, like randomly. So I mean it's still one of my favorite ones for sure.
So Dragon Con is how you started your month-long Europe trip?
Yeah, I went to Atlanta for a week, which ended, yeah, like it kind of ended in Dragon Con, and then I like had a day off, and then I went to Europe.
Wow. And then
So yeah.
New York Comic Con, and then you came home.
Yeah, when I came back from Europe, I think I came back, I think it was like a Tuesday, and then New York Comic Con started on that Thursday. So again, I had like kind of a day to rest. But I did like for the last week of my Europe trip, I treated it as like the most vacation-y part of the trip. I went to Nice, France, and London, and I had been to London like many times before, so I didn't really do any of the like crazy touristy things. I went to like I went to the museum, which I always forget the name of, but mostly I just like walked around and like hung out in the park because it was like fall weather there. So I just kind of did nothing. And in Nice, there's not much to do other than it's like a beach town. It reminded me a lot of California, actually. And it was just kind of like a beach town where people just like leisurely hang around. So I treated like that last week as like a vacation, really.
Nice.
So it was pretty, it wasn't too crazy. New York Comic Con was crazy.
Yeah. Well, just kind of entering New York in itself can feel crazy.
Yeah, and I had hoped to like actually do stuff in New York while I was there because I love New York, and it like the fall is the best time to visit.
It is.
But I didn't really do anything.
Even though it's super cold, Manhattan is magical in the snow. Near Christmas.
I think I went once in February. It was so cold. And I've been in January and it was so cold.
Yeah. No, well, I grew up about 20 minutes outside of, that 20 minutes in distance, not in traffic.
Right.
But so a lot of holiday, routines and rituals ended, up with us being in Manhattan, and it is magical.
Yeah, it wasn't cool enough there when I was there. It was not the fall I had intended. It was like pretty warm and humid, but it was still nicer than LA was when I came back. So
Well, yeah, gosh, you guys have been really through it this summer.
yeah, when I left, the week I left, there was really bad fires, like close by. Like normally, what's funny is normally I hear about fires from my dad because he's like, "How are you doing with the fires?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about," because he sees it on the news and I don't watch the news. So that's normally how I hear about fires is like, "Oh, do you have like how close is this fire to you?" And I'm like, "What fire?" And that's normally what happens. But this fire was actually pretty close. Like you could see it from my house.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was like I think they said the biggest one in the county, like that we've ever had in LA County. So it was pretty close. And that one, of course, like my friend made a joke because she was like, she has the same thing where it's like her parents are always saying something about fires. And she's like, but this fire that was like really close to me, no word from my parents. She like didn't hear a word. But it is hard for people who don't live in the area to like understand the geography, so I get it. But we actually did have really bad fires in nearby for like right when I first left in like August, September.
Well,
and then yeah, it was really hot when I got back.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like about Seattle is it's kind of almost always fall, except in the summer when it stops raining and it's just, the wind stops and it gets hot, and, it doesn't last long and it doesn't get as hot as most places. But this year, we got so hit with this stagnant, smoky air that it was like there was like 3 weeks where it was just like you didn't want to be outside because it was hard to breathe.
Oh yeah. LA, I feel like LA is fall most of the time also. Like it's pretty good, but the summers are just, and it's not even necessarily the summers, it's like September, which I thought I had missed all of it, which is why I was like, oh, I missed September. I missed the entire month of September. I'll be fine. But like I came back and there was like about a week of it was like 100 degrees. like not even exaggerating.
Now,
So it was pretty bad.
you guys get humidity?
Sometimes, not really. I grew up in Georgia, so it's not really humid. Like what people call humid here, I look on my phone and it's like 35% humidity. But there's definitely times where it feels more humid, and there's times where you can see the smog, like it feels like more oppressive than normal. Like you can see the smog and you're like, oh, okay, like I can't see those mountains and I normally can, so it's a little bit, smoggy or harder to breathe this day.
Yeah. No, I mean, in general, every crazy weather has been just everywhere.
Yeah, well, while we were out of town, my mom, Atlanta got part of the hurricane
Yeah, that's
situations.
right.
So she was my sister's power went out for a while, and my sister went to check on my mom's house, and she's like, everything's fine. But they get hurricanes. They get even in Atlanta's pretty far inland. Like they get hurricanes. They get like the outer part of hurricanes pretty frequently, and like rain and thunderstorms from those kind of storms. And so there's been a lot of that recently. And I know a lot of the coast got pretty hard hit with hurricanes, which luckily we don't have to deal with on the West Coast. But
yeah, or at least yet.
Yeah, that's true. Not yet.
Who knows?
Any day now. The way the world's going, it's like any moment.
It really, there is just some days where it's really easy to just like think about everything that's happening, both like, natural disasters, people to people, politically, for Christ's sakes. And you're just like, well, yeah, the world's ending.
Yeah, it does seem like there's days where it's just never ending. Like it just keeps going and you're like, wow, this announcement, now this announcement, now this thing's happening. It can be kind of difficult to be on the internet or be in the world. Some days you're just like, I'm going to take a break.
No, really. I know I have to catch myself sometimes too, because I'll be like just looking at my Twitter and like I just feel like there's this part of my throat that just starts to like flutter. And it's like, okay, put the phone down.
It was definitely nice while I was gone because I didn't have internet most of the time. Like I would have internet when I was where I was staying, and I would have internet, if you go into like a coffee shop or something like that. But it wasn't the same of like now my phone, I have internet everywhere I go. But when I was gone, I just had it on airplane mode, and then whenever there was Wi-Fi available, I would like get online. And it was kind of nice to be. It was like a good amount of being disconnected. Like I could get home at the end of the day and look at my phone and see, kind of like catch up on what was happening. But I also wasn't on my phone when I was out and about. So I think that was something that was pretty nice. I did feel like very disconnected from things that were going on with my friends, because the difference between LA and where I was most of the time in Europe was 9 hours.
It is a lot.
Which is a big difference. Like basically I'd be waking up and they were like either going to bed or some of my friends would still be awake. And so I definitely felt like I was disconnected in some ways from like what was happening with people. But as far as the news and everything, I felt maybe it was a good kind of disconnect. Like you would just accept that you could see things that were happening really late night in Pacific time. I would be like waking up to it. Like when the Las Vegas thing happened, that was like in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like woke up in the morning and I'm like, oh great. Like it was one of my last days in London of like my entire trip, and I woke up and because it was I think it was like 10 o'clock at night on the West Coast, and I woke up and it's like, that's not the kind of news you want to wake up to, basically, is like terrible things happening. So it's a little different because I feel like sometimes we on the West Coast in general wake up to that anyway because of just how the time zones work.
Yeah, no.
Like I woke up to like the indictments and stuff, and I'm like, okay, because it's already been happening.
Yeah.
Because of how it does feel like sometimes we wake up in the middle of stories. So when I was gone, it was a little bit weird with the time zones as far as like when I would see news. And it could, I mean, that could basically, it didn't like ruin my day, but it was a pretty terrible way to start the day. And then to walk around and hear other people talking about it, like, oh, did you see what happened? And that kind of thing it was kind of an interesting perspective to see, oh, I'm in a different country and this is how people are reacting. How like people, like, how interconnected are we really with other countries? Because, you know, that's so far away from London. So like, how does London feel about Las Vegas and those kinds of things? It was interesting to see like how much of the news I would just hear out and about versus a lot of times I just wouldn't hear anything.
That is interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like we don't, like, when I'm here, I don't really hear international news that much.
No, definitely.
Because we pretty much just stick with what we're doing. But when I was there, I didn't hear, I think I assumed more I would hear more US news, like just around and about, but people weren't really talking about US news. So in some ways that was really nice because I could ignore a lot of stuff, but it was just interesting to see because I think we assume that the world kind of revolves around us. So to see that it wasn't, I was like, okay, good.
Well, I mean,
it's not revolving around us.
Yeah, but it's really, you know, everything's kind of set up for us to feel that way. I mean, you go on, you know, Twitter and it's what your feed is, and it's just very easy to make it feel like that is everything, and everything is
right. Yeah, but I guess it does totally make sense that we would focus on what's happening here. Just like when I'm like in Germany, all of their news is talking about things happening in Germany.
Right.
Granted, they talk about things that are happening, you know, around them, but they all impact Germany because they're all really close together. So it like makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, it's just interesting anytime you get to, you know, put pieces of a puzzle together differently and you get to look at things differently. It's important. I think it's something that we all need. And you can probably hear the big snorts.
Yeah.
And I'm mentioning it because part of it will probably be a little hard to completely edit out. Jake snores. It's part of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's his contribution.
It's nice that he can take a nap at this time of day.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really sleep much at night. He likes to keep a lookout on everybody who is asleep. So he's a big day sleeper.
That's really nice.
It is. He is my comfort and my pal. I love him. He's a big 110-pound Rottweiler, and he has the soul of a teddy bear.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was always the person who, you know, as a kid, I was in books. My nose was in books. I read books, and Carl, the children's book, where it's I think Alexandra Day, and it's mostly just artwork of a Rottweiler kind of parenting and nannying a couple of kids. And I was just like, always wanted a Rottweiler. So as soon as I had property that could handle such a big dog, I'm like, it's happening.
Yeah, that's cool that you wanted it for so long and then you can finally make it happen. Like it's a nice happy ending.
Yeah. I think it helps that I'm stubborn. So today we're recording on Wednesday, November 1st, which is the first day of NanoWriMo. And I am using NanoWriMo to get my momentum back. I had a major rewrite, and when I was doing that over the summer, I broke everything because I was focused on the wrong things. And now I've put my pieces back together, and I'm trying to, you know, get back in it and have fun while I do it. Speaking of stubborn, I'm happy that I'm able to be stubborn because I don't know that I could do what I do without it.
Yeah, I've known a lot of my friends are doing it as well, and I think just like seeing that other people are doing it is encouragement for like whatever projects you have to do, like whether it's writing or I need to do this other thing. I'm like, oh, well, these people are committing to do this. I can commit to do something also.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, yeah. And being able to just go ahead and like make the commitment is sometimes, you know, And it's fun. And I've done NanoWriMo before and I've succeeded, but they were early drafts. This is the first time that I'm going with all these notes and a 5 subject notebook full of crazy ass indexes. High fantasy. So I'm
Whoa.
yeah.
That does sound fun though.
It is. It is fun, and it's supposed to be fun. I got, I just got bogged down with focusing on the wrong stuff and ran into a wall, and now I'm in a field. So I guess it's just part of the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you have I guess it happened a whole bunch of months ago now, but I haven't actually talked to you about it. You have a blue check mark on Twitter.
I do. I do. It's changed my life, really.
Sincere or sarcasm?
Well, in some ways it has changed my life because people will see, like, if you have the verified thing, people will see your tweets more.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you respond to people. So like I would always respond to people with like silly Gillian Anderson gifs. And like since like now verified it like shows up more, people like either respond and like I get really good interactions with people because of it, or stuff like that. And I do think people take it to heart, even though it kind of means nothing. Like I've talked about it with people because I know, like, I have friends who to me deserve to be verified, but they're not, and they've applied like multiple times and they still haven't gotten it. And so I'm like, well, this to me is a little bit of proof that it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, it's definitely nice because I think people do take you a little bit more seriously. That part's nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's highly coveted. I mean, I think that, people see it and they're like, oh yeah, this account's legit. And it's legitimizing for the person who gets it in a way too, because, Twitter is Twitter.
Yeah, I do put a lot of effort into Twitter. And I know that, like, in theory, Twitter can go away at any time, and then you're kind of like, what am I left with? But it's especially for writers, I think, and I tell this to people whenever I meet up with people who want to do freelance writing, they always ask me, like, well, how do I get into it? Or like, what do I do? And I always tell them to go on Twitter because I do think it's still kind of the best way to connect with different people that you wouldn't find otherwise. And that's how I got, like, a lot of work that I've done is either I start following someone that I like or I admire, and then we start talking, or I start, or they read like something that I post, or it just kind of like, it can actually like build relationships. And I know some people wouldn't understand. Like if I tried to explain it to certain people who aren't really don't invest a lot of time on Twitter, or just don't understand social media. Like literally the only thing my dad knows about Twitter is that Donald Trump uses Twitter. And like he probably only knows that because on the news they talk about Donald Trump's tweets. Like that's probably the extent of what he knows about Twitter. But if I explained like, oh yeah, I have friends on Twitter and like people I've met on Twitter, and then I meet them in real life and now we're actually friends, like he would just be like, what? This is blowing my mind. Like, and I think that, people meeting, like having internet friends has become so much more normal now. And part of that's because of Twitter, because you're just like, I can find people that like the same things I like and feel the same way about things that I do. And then like when I went to New York Comic Con, I met all these people that I was friends with on Twitter that I felt like we had been friends forever, but we had never met in real life. So I think there's definitely still uses to Twitter, and of course it has problems, as everything does. Mm-hmm. But I still spend all this time on it. And I got one of those things, they email you and it's like your anniversary, and mine was like 10 years on Twitter this year. And I was like, I can't believe I haven't been using it the whole time, but it was like 10 years since I started my account. And I was like, oh my gosh. And same thing with Facebook. Like I've been on Facebook for 10 years. And I'm like, how have I spent a third of my life on these social media platforms?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, it is really cool that you're able to connect with people that you wouldn't be able to normally. And I completely agree with you as far as writing. I've have so many opportunities that I've found through Twitter, and I've got people that I write with, and we work together a lot. And I've never met them in person, but I know them a lot more than the parents next to me in the pickup line.
Right. And I mean, there's things I post on Twitter that I would not post on Facebook. So I feel like sometimes people on Twitter know me better than the like random people I'm friends with on Facebook who I went to like high school with 10 years ago. I'm like, they don't know me. People on Twitter know me better than these people know me.
I'm more comfortable with Twitter in general. And Facebook feels like a high school cafeteria, and I don't like high school cafeterias.
Yeah.
No.
I have a lot of family on Facebook, so I think there's also like an additional like, oh, these people know me in real life.
Yeah. And judge.
I have to be a little bit more careful. My aunt is on here.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma's on Facebook, so
Yeah, I've got aunts on Facebook, and it's funny because like I owe my one a call real bad, and I'm always like, texting her, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. But then she sees me post about the podcast. She's like, are you serious?
yeah.
Talking to these people, but you won't call your aunt?
That's true. I think about that sometimes with work stuff because I'll be like not like late on a deadline, but like it's taking me a little bit longer than it should or whatever. And then I'm like, well, I can't post that I'm watching Stranger Things on Twitter because my editor is going to see this and then be like, why are you watching Stranger Things when you're supposed to be working on this other thing for me?
Have you finished Stranger Things too?
I have.
I just finished it last night, and I won't say any spoilers, but I will say this. Wow.
Yeah. I finished on Sunday. Oh, no, Monday. I finished on Monday, even though I tried to do the whole binge over the weekend thing. It was really rough because it was Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of like random activities that you wouldn't normally have. But I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more than season 1.
I did.
Yeah, there was just parts I enjoyed more. There were things I didn't like as much, but there were definitely like I think overall I enjoyed it more than season 1.
I think I did.
So
Well,
and I found out that I have the same birthday as Will Byers, so
nice.
that's the most important thing about season 2. We have the same birthday.
Well, I really liked how the events in season 2, I still felt like I was in the characters' just everyday life, whereas in the first one, everyone's everyday life was completely interrupted.
Right.
I feel like that made the overall flow and all the art come together in a way that left me going, that was awesome.
I did see people on Twitter complaining about how the kids are gone for so long and their parents just don't care.
There was a
little bit of that.
There was a little bit of that, especially with Nancy and
Mike's parents.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, they're at Will's. And I'm like, they've been at Will's for like 5 days. Like, are you not a little bit suspicious?
Yeah. No, I did notice that too. As far as like the character relationships this season, I was super interested in, I think, all of them.
Yeah, and I liked the new characters, which I think sometimes when they try to bring in new characters, people just end up being like, I just want the old characters, like don't bring in these new people. But I liked all the new characters they brought in. So I thought that was good that they were able to do that in a nice way. I mean, granted, one of them is Sean Astin. I just like him, so probably like anything he did.
Yeah. Well, no, as far as like I appreciated being scared and uncomfortable in some of the episodes. That's something that I'm missing. I'm no longer scared when I watch The Walking Dead. I'm just bored and frustrated. I don't know if you're watching Walking Dead at all, but I'm not happy.
I'm really behind, like seasons and seasons behind. Like I don't even know what season I'm on, but it's one of those shows I want to catch up on because I do feel like a lot of people watch it and I want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's at this point I feel so far behind. I was just trying to like catch up on most recent things. Like while I was on my trip, I watched all of Outlander.
I haven't seen that. How do you like it?
I really liked it. There's definitely issues, but in general, I thought it was really. I think it's really well done, and I like the characters a lot. I think they do a good job with everybody. Like all of the characters have their flaws, and there's kind of a main character that could be he's a pretty bad guy. There's like an actor that plays a really bad guy and a not so bad guy. And they do a good job where I'm like, when he's not a bad guy, I really like him. Even though it's the same actor who plays a really terrible human. So I think the fact that they can pull stuff like that off
That's interesting.
Is really good. Yeah, I just while I was gone, I couldn't watch any new television really. So I just kind of, when I had internet, which it was like a whole ordeal trying to trick my computer into thinking I was in a different country and trying to watch Outlander. But I watched pretty much the whole thing, and I think I was caught up by the time I got back. So it was worth it. I enjoyed it.
I think I'll be checking that out soon. I'm running out of stuff in some of my old standbys. Like Walking Dead, I'm going to watch it, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
That's not good.
I'm at that point in the relationship of a show where it's like, okay, well, I've put all these seasons in, and I know that I loved you once, but right now I'm not so sure.
Have you watched Mindhunter?
No.
It's on Netflix.
It's good. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I'll see a show and like I've heard about it, and I don't know. I'm always so reluctant to start a new show. I think that's part of the reason why I have such a long list, because I'll be like, I don't know about you, and then I'll finally watch it. That happened with OA. I kept hearing about it, and then I was just like, oh wow, I don't know why I waited so long.
Yeah, you're taking a risk whenever you start something new. And so you're like, well, I could be wasting my time because I really need to be watching this other show that I'm behind on that I know I like. So I always just have like, I have like fallback comfort shows where I'm just like, I'm going to go back and just keep watching The Flash. Even though, I mean, I need to catch up on The Flash. So that one's like a bad example. But I like go back and just like rewatch stuff I've already watched instead of starting something new. Cause I'm like, well, I know I like this.
And it's comforting and I can relax. No, totally. Weeds is one of those shows for me. I can just watch that just a billion times.
Oh yeah, that's a good show.
I love it.
Well, and I feel like with the binging, I mean, I kind of don't understand why Netflix doesn't release things more over time. Because for me, I'm like, okay, everyone's really obsessed with Stranger Things for like this week. And then what? Then you're like, okay, well, we're moving on to something else that Netflix releases that now we have to binge in one weekend and talk about.
There's also, if you like, for us who are plugged into Twitter, for Stranger Things, I felt like I had to hurry up and watch it so I didn't accidentally get a spoiler.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, I can't read anything about it. I can't do anything. I must finish it first because there's no, at least with another show, I know that they're only going to talk about through like whatever episode. But with Stranger Things, I'm like, well, I can't read a single article about it because they could be talking about, someone could have binged it overnight and be talking about the entire season. It's going to ruin something accidentally for me.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. I felt the same way. And it's like, as far as like the weekly shows, okay, well, don't, you just avoid this and this and this until you catch up on your DVR recording if you really don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah. So, and just like with the amount of content there is, it's so hard there's definitely the things people are talking about for certain periods of time. And then I want to watch it. And then it's like, okay, well now everybody's talking about something else. And now I have to go and binge this other show that everybody's talking about. It's just like never ending.
Well, and you do a lot of writing associated with, media. So you probably have, I mean, that adds a whole nother complicated factor to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I definitely felt the pressure. Like that was part of my pressure of watching Stranger Things is either I'm going to have to write something about this, so I don't want to be spoiled. That was my biggest thing with Game of Thrones this season is I was writing about it every Monday. So if I didn't watch it, either I had to be like, I can't write this story, or I had to I would just watch it I would watch it on Monday morning, or I'd be spoiled basically in order to like write a story. So that's not really where you want to be. So I definitely, I mean, I like Game of Thrones, so I didn't mind watching it.
Did you like?
But there's an additional pressure on it for sure.
Oh, I bet. Did you like Game of Thrones this season?
I did like Game of Thrones. I had a lot of issues with how quickly things moved. I felt like it was so slow for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they're like, everything's happening at once. But other than that, I also, like, since I wrote so much about it, I read all these fan theories, and so I started to like really analyze things based on, well, is this going to happen? But there's like, honestly, there's a fan theory for everything, and half of them did not come true. So they're like half of them contradict each other too. You're like, this one's like, oh, these people are the three dragons. These people, and then another fan theory says these other three completely opposite people are dragons, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know. But I like that there's a show like that where you can have all these, like, it invites so much speculation.
Oh, it does.
So I like the shows like that where you can keep having those conversations about like what different things mean. And that's the nice thing also about having it be every week instead of all at once, because I didn't really have that chance with Stranger Things to start like trying to figure out, well, what's going to happen? Maybe they should do this. Maybe they should do that, because I just kept going.
Yeah, no, same.
And then I found out what they were doing.
Yeah, there is something about that, like spending a week with, plot ideas and possibilities in your head that, like, getting all the episodes at once, it robs that from you. And I don't have, I'm not, if I have all the episodes, I'm going to watch all of them.
You feel like you have to, like, there's no, like,
no, totally.
I can't make myself wait and watch one every week. I guess I could, but by the time I'd be done with Stranger Things, everyone would be done talking about it, and I'd have no one to talk about it with.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and also too, I mean, like, let's say you take 9 weeks to watch Stranger Things, there you were definitely getting spoiled.
Right, yeah. And there's no excuse. Like, I couldn't complain about it because they'd be like, it's been out for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's the same way with podcasts though, because I was listening to that podcast Dirty John, which I don't know if you've listened to it.
I haven't.
But it was like it's one that the LA Times put out, and they put out like 6. They didn't put out all the episodes at once, but they put them all out fairly quickly. I think within like a week. So maybe like every day they released a new episode. And for a while it was just like everybody's talking about, like, all my friends were like, I had like 4 different people ask me if I had listened to it, and so I was like, no, I haven't. Now I have to. So I went and listened to it all in like 3 days, and it was the same thing. Like, then I can like write articles about it, because like then somebody asked me to write an article about it. And had I not listened to it all really quickly, I wouldn't have been able to do like some work, but also to read all these random articles that people are sending around about like theories about the show, about the podcast. And so I think it's mostly, I feel it mostly with TV shows, but also it happens with podcasts and stuff like that too. When you feel like there's just like, oh, I keep seeing it on Twitter, my friends keep mentioning it on Facebook, people are texting me asking me if I've listened to it or watched it. There's all this like, it's like pressure. It's not necessarily bad pressure, because obviously I like to watch and listen to things, but it definitely is a different than what you would do if I just didn't have anybody telling me what to watch. I like, who knows what I would watch on TV.
Well, I mean, that is it's that interesting phenomenon though, when you start doing what you love as a job, it's not always fun. And it is pressure.
Yeah, for sure. And I started this year, I started covering conventions for work. Mostly I was just going for fun. And I definitely felt like, normally when I would go to San Diego Comic-Con, I always make sure I go to the Marvel panel. There's like panels that I'm like, okay, this is my panel, I definitely have to go to this. But because I was working, I felt like I couldn't really prioritize my things above work things, like work things had to come first. So if they needed somebody to cover this panel, even though I don't care about this panel and it's exactly the same time as the Marvel panel that I really want to go to, I'm going to cover this panel because, I'm working and this is what I have to do.
Right.
So of course it's still fun, Like, I still had fun covering conventions, but it's so much more work
Totally.
to do stuff than stuff that's still fun, but it's more work than you realize. And it's like I have to live tweet panels. And so I'm like, well, this is a lot harder than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm at Comic-Con, but I'm live tweeting panels all day and I don't see anything else.
Yep. Getting to see all sides of it. It's interesting. And I mean, yeah, it can still be fun, but just there's the switch there where it's like you notice the changes of what you're doing and how it feels and why. It's like, okay. I think it's also a sign of like, I forget what happened, but yeah, a few days ago I had this moment and I was just like, oh, well, Jayme, you must be growing up.
Yeah, I know. It does feel, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm an adult. I'm making decisions based on what's best for something that's not just things I want to have fun doing.
Yeah. No, I'm starting to come to terms with the fact that I am an adult. I think for a while I've kind of felt like I was, a fake adult. I mean, part of that is, I became a mom super young. So when I'm, with, at school functions and stuff, a lot of the parents are like 15 plus years older than me. So for a while it's been like, I've kind of just been like, the kid in the club.
Yeah.
Or not in the club, near the club.
It definitely feels like I'm like this in March I'll be 30 and I'm just like, this is not what I thought 30 was. Like, I don't know what I thought it was, but it wasn't like me sitting at home in my pajamas like writing all day. I mean, that's fun, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily what I thought. And I mean, one thing that is really nice about Twitter is I feel like I see other people's tweets or other people's comments and I'm like, oh, this person that I thought was like an adult or I just like thought they were more grown up or they had everything together. And then they'll tweet something and I'm like, oh, they don't have everything together. They're just like me.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Oh, it is really nice. I actually, that's like one of my favorite parts about Twitter is especially when I'm having like a day where it's a hard writing day. It's just, I'm feeling down in my luck. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just making things up all day. And then I read a tweet from, an author that I really look up to and, is career wise, aspire to that. Delilah S. Dawson is a big one there where she just, she'll tweet out just exactly how she feels about writing. And it's not that much different than how I'm feeling about it. And it's nice. It's like, okay, this just is a gig that really just gets you down sometimes. Doesn't matter what, where you are in your career. It's just part of it.
Yeah. So I think everyone kind of feels like they're still figuring everything out, which is nice.
It is. Well, I think, that's what we're doing. We are figuring things out.
Yeah. And there probably won't be a time where you're like, now I've gotten to this point. I have figured everything out. I'm done.
That's death and old age.
Yeah. Just be like, well, yeah, I called my mom yesterday and I was like, because I have, like, since I got back from my trip, I was feeling very much like, oh, I'm just waking up and like basically thinking, okay, what do I have to do exactly today just to get done today? Like, not able to look forward into the future at all. And I called my mom and she's like, my day is just crazy. Like, everything has just gone by and I don't know what happened and the day is over. And I'm like, oh, okay. So my mom is 65 and she still feels this way. So good. I feel great. Doesn't get better. I mean, not that that's bad. I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Well, there's comfort in, similarities. And it's nice. It's nice to remember where it's like, okay, yeah, you're having a stressful trip, but so is everybody.
Right.
We're all just trying to figure out what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, and people being, especially with all the news that we get on Twitter and everything all the time, some people just being like, I'm overwhelmed, or like, I feel crappy today by all of this. And I'm like, oh, I feel overwhelmed too. Thank you for saying this.
Totally. Now, I absolutely loved the episodes of Obsessed right now that you post. That your podcast is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, are you planning on a new batch of episodes yet?
I am planning on it. my intention was, what's nice about Obsessed right now that's different than other podcasts I did was that it's kind of I can plan it out as far as what people talk about and who I have talk about various things. So I tried to make it very like different kinds of topics. Nothing was too similar to each other. And then also try to make it so it's like half girls, half guys, and not all like white people and stuff like that. And so that was really nice that I tried to do for the first season, but I still need to do better. So my idea was while I was out of town to kind of plan that list of people who have told me that they have different like I asked some friends and people gave me suggestions of people that they knew who could talk about different things. And my idea was while I was gone to kind of like craft what the season would look like and then start when I got back to start recording, but that like has not happened. So there are plans to do more, but I haven't actually started recording anything yet.
I totally get it. I mean, I
had a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed the vibe of the show. I'm looking forward to more episodes.
Thank you.
No, I hear you. I mean, I took, I had to, as far as like what I could handle workload wise, but I took like 8 months off of too many words. And then it was just like, people were asking me when it was coming back, and then I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, it's time.
Yeah. Well, and it's something I really like to do, but I don't make any money doing it. So it just costs money and time really. So it just comes like in priority level. It comes lower than trying to figure out how I'm going to like pay rent, like obviously. But I definitely, I have a lot of people who have said that they're interested in being guests and want to talk about various different things. And some of my friends keep bugging me about it, which is good because I need like the encouragement of people to keep bringing it up, to keep me remembering that it's something I want to do.
Yeah.
So
I hear ya. I'm trying to wrangle this thing into being something that I can have for a long time because it, brings income in, so I don't need to feel bad for spending my time on it and not other things that make money and give me food.
Yeah. Well, I have like friends who have done podcasts and they do, Patreons, and they have all these different ways of, making it sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really cool that there's those kind of like Patreon and all those things out there that have come along to help people who want to do like creative endeavors but don't have the funds.
For sure. No, I'm new to Patreon, but I'm really liking it and intrigued by the possibilities that it presents.
Especially with podcasts being, people can get them for free. It's nice to give people the opportunity to support something they like too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Because they want to, like, if there's something I really like, but I've been getting it for free, I don't mind like buying a t-shirt or, something to support them, knowing that like, oh, $20, but I've been listening to their podcast for 3 years. So that seems like a good investment.
Totally. I know. And as my kids, get older and they're, how they have all these YouTubers that they're interested in, I'm always like, make sure that you like it. If you like it, show them, subscribe,
share it.
Yep. Tell the world. Well, Heather, thanks so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun chatting with you.
Yeah, it's nice to catch up.
For sure. And you have a good week.
Yes, I'm going to a good month. Have a good month. Good luck on your writing for the month.
Well, it's funny. No, the openings and the endings, I'm always like my social awkwardness comes out, and it's always like, bye guys, or something, and it's my voice squeaks, and then I'm but
well, it's like easy to forget too. It's like, you're just having a conversation. Oh yeah, we're recording.
Now I have to,
other people are gonna listen to this. What?
Yeah, all of a sudden the movie phone voice slips out of my voice and sound automated, and I don't know why. Well, Thank you, Heather.
Of course. We can do this again in another 2 years.
There we go. All right, guys, you know the deal. Follow me on Twitter at @meBenningfield and the show at Too Many Words Pod. Find us on Facebook, the same names. And go to my site for words and older episodes at tmwpod.com. And of course, please make your way over to patreon.com/too-many-words and support the show. You get a vote on books I review, topics I discuss, and get exclusive audio and written content, as well as early access to weekly episodes. Thanks for all you guys do, and I'll talk to you next week.